Thank you.
Okay, are we live? Well, welcome to the South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee meeting on the 29th of January 2024. Welcome everyone. In terms of apologies, I know Paul is stepping in for Mary Ann from Monmouthshire. I believe James Clark is going to step in for Jane in Newport.
Yeah, that's correct, Anthony. Yeah.
Great. Welcome, James. Welcome along. Any other apologies we need to note today?
No, Chair, these are all of the apologies.
Okay, great. Well, welcome everyone. The second item then is minutes from the CJC meeting on the 4th of December. Is everyone happy with those? Any issues we need to raise? Great. If we're all happy, then we'll move straight on to declarations of interest. Anything we need to note here? No. Well, as always, if anything comes up during the meeting that you want to raise, just raise your hand and we'll note that. If you need any advice or want to mention anything, you're welcome to do that during the meeting as well. Item 4 then is the interim Section 151 officer appointments. Over to Kelly for this initially, I think.
Yep, thank you very much, Chair, and good morning, members. So very briefly, the report sets out what is now an urgent need to appoint an interim Section 151 officer. Interim because as enactment of lift and shift draws ever closer, it's quite clear that we've got to maintain very rigorously a number of separate interests, particularly around that Section 151 role, because the current Section 151 officer can't be the Section 151 for both Cardiff Council and City Deal as one, because that comes as a package, and of the South East Wales CJC. So it's really important that we have that appropriate distance across those existing relationships. So, of course, you approved the report that I brought to you on the 4th of December, which was for the appointment of an executive team, which included statutory roles. But of course, it's impossible to get those statutory roles in place as part of that arrangement in time to cover the period in question. So the report sets out the different options that have been considered, and I've worked closely with chief executives on this, as well as the Section 151 group. We've discounted in the main a lot of those options, and we have now been able to source a very credible candidate who is known to many of us already. He's the former chief executive of RCT Council. He possesses the relevant qualification, the membership of the relevant professional body, and of course has a good working understanding of our arrangements in Cardiff Capital Region. So it's very much an interim appointment, and until such time those executive team proposals can be taken forward into a recruitment process. And you have a recommendation today, members, on a later report about establishing the appointments committee, which will enable us to do that. But just to confirm, this is very much an interim Section 151 appointment. Chris will be working on a part-time basis. And for resilience purposes as well, this report sets out a proposal to designate Harjinder Singh as the interim deputy Section 151 officer. So we've got all of our needs, proper financial arrangements covered for the period that I'm talking about. So I will stop there, Chair. I know we've briefed you on this, and as I say, I've been working in partnership with chief executives and Section 151s on this solution. So I'm very happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Kelly. Any questions, colleagues? If not, are we happy to move to the recommendation? It's to approve the appointment of Chris Bradshaw as interim Section 151 officer of the South East Wales CJC and Harjinder Singh as the interim deputy Section 151 officer with effect from the 29th of January 2024, that's today, and until such a time as the external recruitment process concludes for a permanent appointments. Sean, did you want to come in there?
Yeah, I'll be very happy to agree these things. The only thing I wanted to say, I wanted to thank Chris Lee for all the work that he's done. He's been fantastic, and he's guided us in an excellent manner, I think, through the last couple of years. But just to give my thanks to him. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Yeah, we're all very grateful to Chris for the hard work that he's put in. Any questions before we move those recommendations? Can I have a mover and a seconder if possible, please?
Happy to move.
Thanks, Sean. And Steve seconding. Okay, so if I take a vote, then Mama Share.
Support.
Thanks, Bernard Morgan.
Support, Chair.
Thanks. Hugh's managed to come in yet. Newport.
Support.
Thanks, James. Merthyr.
Support, Chair.
All right. Cardiff.
Support.
Thanks, Hugh. Blarney Gwent.
Support, Chair.
Caerphilly.
Support.
Bridgend. Just seen Hugh pop up.
Support, Chair. Thanks.
Thanks, Hugh. And Brecon Beacons National Park.
Support, Chair.
Thanks, Julie. And Torvine supports. So that's 10 votes. I believe that's everyone present. So if we're happy then to move on to agenda item 5, which is the South East Wales CJC annual budget 24-25.
Chair, can I just check, sorry to interrupt, that Councillor Andrew Morgan is now with us, because as I say, we do
correct.
need full attendance in order to vote on this budget. I can't see his name listed, but I'm just going to ask colleagues for confirmation, because Chair, otherwise I'd suggest we move on to the business plan item whilst we wait for Councillor Morgan to arrive. Colleagues, can you confirm that Councillor Morgan isn't on the call? Councillor Andrew Morgan?
I've just seen a message that he's on a call at the moment, so I'm thinking that he's not here.
Shall
Okay.
we move to item 6 then, the budget monitoring update, and then come back to item 5 when Andrew's able to join us? Is that
Thank you,
possible?
Chair.
Okay, so item 6 then is the South East Wales CJC budget monitoring update for month 9. Yeah, come in.
Should you come on?
Yeah, come on.
Oh, welcome back, Agenda.
Good morning, everyone. Apologies, Canberra members, just for the slight technical hitch-up. So I'm just going to use Reese's computer just to take through members through the month 9 budget monitoring update in respect of the CJC budget. So this will be a report the members are familiar with. We brought regular updates to yourselves during the year. We brought an update at month 4, and more recently we brought the month 7 update to you at your last meeting in December. This report provides an update of 9, which is a reporting position to the 31st of December 2023. And the position is set out there in table 1. So there are some changes for members to note. So previously reported that the budget was anticipated to be fully spent. That position is now changed a little. And what we're looking to present at month 9 is a projected underspend of just under 75,000. And that's set out in table 1. The two key reasons for the change, one is around the developments that we've had in Welsh Government on the strategic transfer planning budget. And the fact that they've now approved.
Agenda, apologies, we can't hear you. You're reverberating. Sorry, somebody probably needs to turn their sound or speakers off.
I don't know if I just come in before everything from somebody else, like, don't know what laptop on in here.
Can other members hear clearly, or is it just me?
Not just you.
No, it's reverberating.
Yeah, apologies, the sound quality is really poor. We can't hear the detail of the report.
I think that's then if
Does that work better now?
Yeah, that's much clearer.
Yes.
Thank you.
okay. So just for clarity then, so I just start back up to the beginning then, just so that members have heard the background. So this is the month 9 budget update in respect of the Corporate Joint Committee's budget for 2023-24. We brought a report that will be familiar to members, as we brought regular budget updates to members, particularly at month 4 and month 7. So this report covers the position at month 9, which takes us to the reporting period of the 31st of December 2023, and the position is set out in Table 1. What Table 1 shows is there's a slight change from the position that we previously reported, which was that the budget was projected to be fully spent. That was the position that we reported on month 7 at the December meeting. We're now reporting that the budget for the current year is projected to be underspent by just under £75,000. And there's a couple of reasons for the projected underspend, and they're set out in paragraphs 10 to 12. So the first area is around the regional transport planning budget, and discussions have been ongoing with Welsh Government ministers and officials around making funding available for some of the costs that have been incurred this year. So pleased to announce Welsh Government have approved a funding package of £225,000, and that is going to be as part of 2 awards. There's a £125,000 grant award being made in the current year and a further £100,000 being made available for next year. So we're doing some work at the moment to understand how we can utilise some of the costs that we incurred this year and make that money available to support the budgets going forward. So that's the first area of change. And then the second area relates to some of the assumptions that we had factored in around the governance and subcommittee costs. So previously, we were anticipating that we would be holding 1 meeting of the Governance and Audit Subcommittee in the year, and also we will have completed the recruitment of the chair and the lay chair. So that's now, we're now probably not going to need to use the recruitment agency costs, and we will recruit those through established networks. And due to the timetable, it's unlikely that we're going to have that first meeting year. So we're now projected that there to be a nil spend. So there's 2 key changes, members. The financial implications are set out largely in the body of the report. And of course, we will continue to monitor the position and provide the final outturn as part of the final accounts. So Chair, happy to take any questions on the budget monitoring report.
Thanks, Jacinda. Any questions, colleagues? Are we all happy then to move to the recommendations, which I believe are that it's recommended the South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee notes the 2023-24 month 9 budget monitoring position and projected outturn position as set out in this report. Are we all happy to so I've got a mover and a seconder, possible?
Happy to move, Chair.
Thanks, Liz. And a seconder?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, David. So if we go to a vote on that, if I go to Monmouthshire.
Support.
Thanks, Paul Valgamorgan.
Agree.
Thanks, Liz. Bridgend.
Agree.
Thanks, you. RCT.
Yes, agree.
Thanks, Andrew. Newport.
Yes, agree.
Thanks, James. Merthyr.
Agree, Chair.
Cardiff.
Yep, great.
Thanks, you. Blandy Gwent.
Agree.
Thanks, Steve. Caerphilly.
Agree.
Thank you, Sean. And Brecon Beacons National Park.
Agree, Chair.
Thanks, Julian. And Torvine agreed. So that's all 11 votes. Thanks for your work on that, Jacinda, and everyone else who's played a part in that report. If we now move back then to item 5 on the agenda, which is the South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee annual budget for 24-25. Who's going to start on this one?
Yeah, and that's for me as well, Chair.
Thank you.
Okay. So members have the proposed 24-25 budget report in front of them. There's a lot of detail in this report as it brings together budget information that we previously included in 3 separate reports. In addition, there's a 4th element in the report which outlines the Treasury management arrangements which the CJC will need to put in place for the 1st of April. These are corporate support arrangements which are currently carried out by the accountable body. I'm not proposing to go through the report in detail. All the information is clearly set out in the 20 or so pages of the report. However, I think it's worth highlighting the key proposals included in the report. So I'll just take members through the key tables of the report and the proposed budgets. So Table 1 highlights the proposed budget in respect of the CJC statutory functions and the contributions due from the constituent councils, as well as those due from the National Parks Authority. You will see the report is proposing a budget of just over 685,000 for 24-25, and that's inclusive of the Welsh Government funding that's been approved for 24-25. Reassuringly, this is in a similar range to what the other 3 CJCs are proposing in respect of their 24-25 budgets. Paragraph 31 sets out that similar to the current year, the council's contributions will be met from general reserves, which are held on behalf of those councils. Table 2 sets out the proposed city deal budget, and in line with the budget strategy approved by members, this keeps local authority contributions at the same level as the current year. Table 4 sets out what this means for individual local authorities, with the amounts calculated on a per capita basis as set out in the joint working agreement. Going forward, the medium-term financial planning will be essential, and the report outlines that a detailed medium-term financial plan will be brought forward to members for consideration in the autumn. In the meantime, Table 5 provides an illustration of what the gap in funding may look like. This table currently assumes no additional Welsh Government funding, but clearly that's an area and a subject of debate with Welsh Government ministers and officials over the medium term. Finally, Table 6 sets out the Corporate Joint Committee's capital programme for next year and the next 4 years, and details the local authority's capital contributions due over this period. It's important to note that the programme includes the significant benefit of the £86 million UK Government reprofile over the next 5 years, which reduces the local authority's capital contributions, but also eliminates the cost to carry over this period. Paragraph 73 to 77 sets out commentary around the CJC's financial resilience and the level of general reserves held. The report sets out that the projected level of general reserves projected at the 31st of March 2024 are low after allowing for the known commitments. As members are aware, City Deal is accruing recycled funds as part of its evergreen principles, and these are detailed in paragraph 75. But if we are to launch a second fund, then these recycled funds, will need to be set aside to support the launch of that second fund. Utilising these recycled funds for other purposes will clearly impact on the ability to deliver a second fund. The financial implications are set out on pages 17 and 18, and paragraph 83 outlines a number of potential risks which members need to consider as part of the recommendations. These are areas of the budget that will be carefully considered as part of the CJC's future budget setting processes. So, Chair, to summarise, the proposed budget is in line with the budget strategy approved by members. There's no increase to proposed local authority contributions in 24-25, and the UK Government reprofile will reduce local authority capital financing costs next year. We're proposing a new model of delivery which combines increasing in-house capacity and capability with the purchase of transactional support from Rhondda Cynon Taf Council, and this will reduce the reliance on external advisors. Over the next couple of years, as the requirements of the CJC becomes clearer, we will look to review budget and realign resources as deemed appropriate. An illustrative medium-term financial plan is included in the report, and an important piece of work will be completed over the summer and brought back to members for further consideration in the autumn. This information, the contents, has been shared with the Section 151 group, and they also agreed the need for local authorities to plan the medium-term financial plan, particularly around the commitments that are crystallising for the regional transport plan and the strategic development planning function over the medium term. So Chair, that's what I was going to say. So I'm happy to take any questions before we move to the recommendations set out on page 22.
Thank you, Agenda. Any questions or comments from members before we move to the recommendations? Obviously, it's very welcome the pragmatic approach that's being taken. We're all committed to the principle of regional working. We've also got incredibly stretched budgets, so the lack of increasing contributions and then the reprofiling news is very welcome in those terms, because it doesn't put more pressure on our overstretched budgets already back at home, whilst delivering the ambitions we have to work together regionally. So that's very, very welcome. If I move then to the recommendations, Hugh, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks for the detailed report. It was just to make the point that obviously now that the structure is changing, we're becoming our own corporate entity and body, we'll need to formalise in a different way those treasury management arrangements, and clearly we will have significant funds to manage in that respect, and I know that we'll be receiving regular reports on that function, because obviously it will need member oversight, given the scale and extent of that, because of our careful financial management. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor David, and we'll be bringing a full report back to yourselves at the March meeting, which will be setting out the approvals for the various documentations, but also setting out roles and responsibilities and how those different levels of controls will be built in to ensure, as you said, member oversight absolutely at the highest level, but also how that then delegates down to individual officer roles and responsibilities as well.
Thanks both, and obviously we've got consistent financial reporting throughout the year, and as well, so this is just sort of part of the culmination of a process throughout the year, which is welcome. Any more questions, or are we happy to move to the recommendations? They're at paragraphs 100 to 102. I won't read them out in full, but you can see them on your agenda papers. Can I have a mover and a seconder for those recommendations, please?
Happy to move.
Thanks, Sean.
Happy to second.
And thanks, Liz. So that's moved and seconded. If I can take a vote then, if possible, please. I'll start with Monmouthshire.
Agree.
Thanks, Paul. Viola Morgan.
Agree.
Liz Bridgend.
Oh, agreed. Sorry, Chair.
Thanks, you. RCT.
Yes, agreed.
Thanks, Andrew. Newport.
Agree.
Thanks, James. Merthyr.
Agree, Chair.
All right. Cardiff.
Agree.
Thanks, you. Blyndeg Gwent.
Agree, Chair.
Thanks, Steve. Caerphilly.
Agree.
Thanks, Sean. Brecon Beacons National Park.
Agree in relation to Part A1 recommendations, which I think we're a party to. I think we're excluded from the Part A2 and B recommendations.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for that clarification, Julian. And Torvine is agreed. So that is carried unanimously. Thank you, colleagues. If we move then to item 7, which is the South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee Annual Business Plan.
I'll take this one, Chair, if that's okay. I have a few slides which I'll run through just to present an overview of the business plan, if that's suitable. So what I'll do, I'll work through the business plan, just setting the context, also the strategic goals, the key activities that will underwrite the delivery of the business plan, and then looking at how we'll manage delivery also. To establish the context for this is very much about us becoming a city region. The plan comes at a landmark moment for us, our first year operating as a South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee. So therefore, what we bring you is an integrated plan, which brings the city deal activity together with our new wider regional remit. Of course, it's important to outline that we, as a new organisation, a new public body, the South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee, exists to underwrite the delivery of the regional economic and industrial plan. So it's within that context that we operate. We have a current 5-year strategic business plan, which runs from 2021 to 2026. But given that we have these new statutory powers across economic well-being, regional transport and strategic spatial planning, we are going to revise that in the year 24-25 in alignment with, as Hajendra mentioned, the medium-term financial plan to make sure that we can really realise the benefit of those new powers. But what's critical here is that we're maintaining our focus. We're building on 7 years of activity of the city deal. This is evolution. So our ambition remains unchanged. We want an economy for the region that's bigger, fairer and greener as a partnership across 10 local authorities. We want to continue building those partnerships and conditions, creating the conditions for shared prosperity across the 10 local authorities. This new public body, the South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee, is only a mechanism by which we'll achieve this. So we remain committed to the strategic goals of our regional economic plan, being more competitive, connected and resilient. And we want to make sure that we are in direct alignment with that we get a direct read across. We have built existing capability over the last 7 years. That helps us both in terms of establishing new corporate functions that help us fulfill obligations as a new public body. But likewise, we're taking the opportunity to grasp the statutory requirements around inclusivity and sustainability, we'll be putting net zero and equality at the heart of everything that we do. So if I just move on to the strategic goals, what I'll do is outline the key activities. Some of the key activities are underwrite those, but I won't go through them exhaustively. For some time, the last 7 years, the City Deal has made great strides in driving innovation-led growth, and now more than ever, it becomes critical as part of our strategic goal to be more competitive, that we start to realise economic and societal benefits from that. That's supporting private and the public sector. And the first step on that way marker is really the regional innovation strategy that will be produced and released in Q2 next year. This is a key step for us moving forward. It'll set the guide rails for our innovation-led growth. The Aberthaw project speaks to all of our strategic goals, but one of the areas that we'll be moving forward with that is the production of the master plan. We really believe that unlocks the potential for innovation-led growth through the green economy. And likewise, a fairly significant new land piece for us to deal with and to leverage is the development and beginning delivery of the South East Wales Investment Zone, a £160 million initiative. So next year, you'll see the proposition develop, including the sector-focused geography and the incentives be utilised. Through City Deal, again, we've made great progress enhancing the regional infrastructure, but we still face significant challenges in physical and digital connectivity. The key activities next year will include the production of the regional transport plan, so that will be ready for adoption in June 2025 is our estimate. So there are a significant amount of time and effort next year that will be taken in developing that and building on the work with the Cardiff Capital Region Transport Authority. We will go into the early stages of spatial planning with the strategic development plan. The Northern Valleys initiative is a landmark for us, really. The Northern Valleys competitiveness deep dive, which you've seen, highlighted key needs in this area, and we'll see the first tranche of projects come forward for that. And finally, I just wanted to speak briefly to the fibre to the premises scheme, which we assess will move forward in Q2 of next year. But we've allied this approach to building digital connectivity with the development of an associated plan with Building Digital UK, because with this an area we need to address. And finally, as highlighted in the annual business plan and Councillor Hunt's Forward and elsewhere, we are facing multiple external factors, global in terms of the UK economy, for example, and obviously we have potential for a changing political environment in the coming years. So resilience as a region and as a partnership that works to ensure opportunities for everyone in our region seems more important than ever. The Cluster Development and Growth Programme, which is funded from the Shared Prosperity Fund, speaks to this and creating opportunities for people across the region. In terms of energy resilience, really important to point out that our local area energy plans, which are in development, and the regional energy plan and associated investment prospectus will be ready for the middle of the next financial year. And I know it's more of an internal piece of work, but the organisational maturity, the building out of the South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee as a partnership is really critical to our long-term resilience as a region. This builds on our partnerships across local authorities. It's aligning ourselves with local plans and building complementary delivery across the new statutory powers. I won't go into this in any great depth, but the delivery plan does also feature milestones. These are milestones of significance, which help you to track progress and we'll report back against. Likewise, as part of our midterm review, it's not quite ready yet, but we're finalising the forward numbers, so we'll be able to put in indicative measures as part of the plan also. Finally, in terms of managing delivery, again, we're building on the foundations of the City Deal. This is evolution in enhancing delivery and management capability. Our governance is maturing. This is not just in line with the CJC regulations, but we're going to be able to rationalise some of the existing arrangements whilst maintaining transparency, accountability, rigour. The funding model is developing towards an integrated model of regional public investment, as highlighted by agenda, and these two plans speak to each other. And we're also enhancing the monitoring and evaluation, particularly across inclusivity and sustainability. And you'll see that in our revised impact investment framework. As I mentioned before, you'll also get key performance indicators for 2024-25. They're just being finalised at the moment as part of our midterm review submission. And that's it, Chair. I appreciate the time to work through that and very happy to take questions.
Thank you, Colin. Any questions then, colleagues? I was going to welcome the mention of the Northern Valleys Initiative in that. I know our approach is thematic and not geographical, but I think that, you know, the need to deliver, to continue to deliver for the whole of the region, and to really emphasise that is key, and how we communicate that as well, so that, you know, the whole region knows that we're working, you know, to develop it and to take forward themes. I think is you know, very welcome and necessary. I've got Julian, Paul, and then Geraint coming in.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, just really to follow on from that, you know, seeing that the Valleys Regional Park's being integrated into this, it's encouraging. But certainly Brecon Beacons National Park Authority would wish to be participatory in future business plans. I would suggest we need to perhaps look at the wider sustainability issues. I would suggest it's not just about economics and transportation aspirations, which are obviously very important, but if we're looking at well-being, it relies on the health and benefits of recreation and the landscape qualities that we have around us. So both the valleys and the national park play a very important and strategic role in this, and I wonder whether future business plans could actually include this in just a short sentence, perhaps, just to balance out perhaps that issue against some of the others that are in there. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thanks,
Chair, if I could just say, Chair, on that point, you know, we'd be happy to incorporate that in. I think hopefully, Julian, if you look at the content of the plan and some of the objectives and some of the things that we are still to do to become a corporate joint committee, you know, resetting those wellbeing objectives, full integration of the Valleys Regional Park, production of our biodiversity strategy, and when we bring forward soon our response to the public sector equality duty, I think you'll see all of those themes and objectives writ very large in the work that we're going to be taking forward. So yeah, we're on a journey, aren't we? I think bit by bit we are.
I'm just putting a marker down really for next year. Perhaps it could be a little bit broader in concept, what we're promoting. That's all, I suppose.
Great, thanks both. And Paul.
Thanks very much, Chair, and welcome the reference to the regional transport plan. The date of completing that process of June 25 was mentioned, and welcome the reference to the strategic development plan, the land use document that will accompany that. In Monmouthshire, in the next few months, we'll be completing our local transport plan and our local replacement development plan. It strikes me that there is a challenge before all of us, both at a regional and a local level here. We need the regional plans ultimately to provide the context for our local work, but we need a regional plan that also reflects that local work. And getting that balance right will be difficult. Messages I hear from Welsh Government is that they don't understand necessarily that difficult, and some documents I've seen reflect an over top-down approach to much of this development. In order to counter that, and this is my question, what steps are we taking to put in place the committee structure of our new regional body, the Transport Committee, the Planning Committee, so that those members don't just receive a document to approve, but can be part of the creative process of driving that plan. If it's going to be completed by June 25, it seems to me we should get ahead and get that member involvement.
Councillor Griffiths, I'll respond to that briefly. as well, and it's an excellent point, because both of these have to be collaborative endeavours to succeed. And some of the conversations I have with Welsh Government colleagues focus on the fact that what we have here are 10 local authority partners, which is a very significant number. And whilst it's a very, very strong union, it could be fragile with too much top-down pressure, as you say. So we're really building on the work that Councillor David and others have done with the Cardiff Capper Region Transport Authority. The implementation plan, which I think is a later agenda item, speaks to our need to build on that as a partnership model. So absolutely, that I think Councillor David could also speak to this. This has been central to what we do, even to get to the point of having an implementation plan. We've had to work collaboratively. So yeah, absolutely appreciate that, and hopefully that will give some reassurance.
If I can just add as well, Councillor Griffiths, we brought forward a structure to the 4th of December meeting, which set out in very high level terms how the governance will work. So economic wellbeing function being discharged by the CJC board, and then having 2 statutory public subcommittees, one on the strategic development plan and one on the transport plan, because we want the economy, transport and the spatial planning system to work together as one. We've got a bit more work to do to flesh out, I think, some of the structures that surround that. And I think, again, another really important point around the SDP, will it be a combination of 10 local plans, given some of the timing issues that we're up against? Or will it be something more strategic, much more like the old structure plans, in setting that overarching context? So I think we've still got to have that sort of philosophical debate. But hopefully you'll see now in the next report on transition that some of these arrangements are starting to shape up. And I think on the strategic development plan in particular, we probably need a longer lead in to that subcommittee, possibly a member working group, so we can flesh that out appropriately and look at some of the issues which are probably going to be contentious around things like governance and representation. So hopefully that gives us a longer lead in time, but still the structures, as you say, to twin with the work around the regional transport plan. So these things are developed together in a strong sense of synchrony, which I think is key, really.
Both. Geraint next, and then Hugh.
Thanks, Chair. I would like to thank the officers for the hard work in putting the plan together. I think it's an excellent plan. Also, I'd like to thank you all for the 50 million investment into the Northern Valleys. I think this morning, I don't know if you've seen it, there was a report by the Principality Building Society showing the differences between house prices in the Northern Valleys to the M4 corridor. It's quite stark, really, how much the house prices have dropped in the Northern Valleys, and it just shows, I suppose, where the balance of the money is at this moment in time. I have one question for Kelly. Kelly, can you confirm if Welsh Government have put that 50 million match funding into the Northern Valleys investment as well?
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. I think what was agreed on the Northern Valleys was that CCR would ring fence the 50 million for some of those projects that have been agreed, sites, premises, digital infrastructure, tourism, and then on a project by project basis, then we would share that information, that diligence with Welsh Government, and then offer them the opportunity to co-fund on that basis. So hopefully we still achieve the quantum, the 100 million plus private sector leverage. But I think in order to make progress, in order to get things going, I think that approach was felt to be the most expedient, Councillor.
Thank you.
Hugh?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just responding to Paul's point, Councillor Griffiths' important point around the development of the regional transport plan and the regional development plan. Certainly in the regional transport authority, there's been extensive engagement with members through briefings and site visits, which I think have been critical, and understanding beyond just the public meetings, and I think we've got full engagement from members. I'm pleased there's a number of leaders on on there, Councillor Morgan, Councillor Thomas and Councillor Morgan, and we've made a lot of progress. I think we'll need a similar approach in terms of that regional strategic planning function as well, to ensure that that is a success, because it will require that support from members, obviously, if we're to make it a reality, and engagement from members from the outset. So I certainly welcome the creation of that working group. And then, if I can, Chair, just a wider point around the plan, and that's that the plan has continued to evolve, isn't it? Which I think is one of its strengths. So we've got the Northern Valleys Initiative, or we've got Aberthaw, which wasn't at the part of our plans at the beginning, was it? But it's there now, a very important part of our plans. So I think that's a strength to the region, and it's an ability that some of the other city deals and regions actually don't have today, because we've got more flexibility here to respond. And that's going to be important going forward as we continue to experience quite significant economic shocks across South Wales. So I'm thinking about the announcements with Tata, etc. And I'm pleased to see that that's in this plan, that it's constantly subject to review and to change where we need to change it to check. And also we developed the plan together with businesses, and we'll continue to do that where there are fundamental changes, because this is about generating that prosperity for the region, and that we'll have to take businesses with us, and that's within the plan as well. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Are we okay then to move to the recommendations? The recommendations, CJC notes and approves the South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee Annual Business Plan for 24-25, set out in Appendix 1, noting the annual budget report for 24-25, which is summarised within this report, set out separately in the agenda. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that recommendation, please?
Happy to move the recommendations.
Thank you, David. And a seconder, if possible.
Happy to second.
Thanks, Liz. Okay, I'll take the vote then. So, Mummershire.
Agree.
Valda Morgan.
Agree.
Bridgend.
Agree. Thanks.
RCT.
Yeah, agree.
Newport.
Agree.
Merthyr.
Agree, Chair.
Cardiff.
Agree.
Rhondda Gwent.
Agree.
Caerphilly.
Agree.
Brecon Beacons National Park.
Agree.
And Torvine agreed. So that's carried. So we'll move on to agenda item 8 then, which is the regional transport plan update.
I'll take this one as well, Chair, if that's okay. Thank you. So in terms of the regional transport plan, obviously this is one of the new statutory powers that we have as a South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee. We are moving at a very different pace with this as against the strategic development plan. So we had guidance that was issued by Welsh Government, which gave us a very clear instruction to develop an implementation plan. It's important to note that regional transport is a non-concurrent power, so therefore we've got a very specific role to play in that. It's been well defined by Welsh Government. And the purpose of this implementation plan, in some ways a plan for a plan, was to give all stakeholders clarity on what, not just how we would develop the regional transport plan, but also what the resources would be required to do that. So we submitted that. We brought a paper to CJC members on the 9th of October, I believe it was. We submitted on the back of that an implementation plan approved by Councillor David as chair of the CCRTA on the 31st of October. We heard back just before Christmas time that had been approved. There's a couple of important points about that approval process. that firstly, we have asked to, while we'll stick to the ultimate milestone of adopting the plan by June 2025, the milestones that have been given to us by Welsh Government we didn't feel were achievable. So there's been an acceptance that we will move to a slightly different set of milestones, and they have been agreed with Welsh Government colleagues, although we'll meet the ultimate adoption point. The funding requirement we identified for the plan, development of the plan, was £125,000 for 23-24 and £175,000 for 24-25. There was a slight shortfall, and we got the full funding for 23-24, but Welsh Government were unable to fulfil the full amount for 24-25. That shortfall of £50,000 to give surety, we've been able to meet and to rationalise to make sure that we can do this without bringing further impact upon local authority partners. So we're at a point now where we're able to agree with Welsh Government a way forward. We will begin development of the plan. We will bring regular updates back to the CJC, but also we'll be working very, very closely with the Regional Transport Authority, both in its current and its new format. So really it was to provide an update to Corporate Joint Committee to give you a sense of what will be coming down the track, and to say that we will be reporting back to you regularly on this matter.
Thank you, Colin. Any questions on this? Sean?
Yes, thanks, Anthony. Colin did mention it there, as did, I think Paul mentioned it on the last report, the concern around the timeline on this and the delivery by the 30th of June 2025. It does seem very tight when you're delivering a plan of such complexity. I would hate to rush it and get it wrong. And I understand that the timeline is also it requires input from TFW all along, and so therefore they could be controlling the timeline to some extent. And just to say, you know, while I agree the plan, I have got my concerns.
Councillor Morgan, just to reflect on that, absolutely. If there was an asterisk against our plan, one of the key aspects that we said that we had a high dependency on was Transport for Wales for the provision of data and services. We're in conversation with Transport for Wales at the moment. We've already received the first tranche of data, funny enough. But we've been very, very clear that there are key aspects of this plan, key components which require that. So we're in constant conversation with colleagues at Welsh Government in this regard. They're very aware of this. We made it plain in all of our feedback to them. So again, as part of our reporting commitment to you is to make you aware of any deviations, because it also has a resource burden. If we can't source the data and services we need from Transport for Wales, that'll leave us with a financial and a resource gap. So we'll be back in contact and report regularly to that end. But it's a very well-known issue.
Okay, thanks, Colin.
Geraint's coming next, and then Julian.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Councillor Morgan raises a really good point there. You know, I would put up our officers in the RTA against anybody in the world as far as bus services are concerned. I think they know it inside out, and we've been very fortunate through all the iterations of the bus emergency schemes to be where we are now. A lot of other areas are a lot worse place than we are. I think going forward with the integrated plan, you know, with the bus, the rail, the active travel, how that sits together, as you say, Councillor Morgan, you know, we need a lot of help on that from the Transport for Wales, and I just hope it doesn't slow up our aspirations.
Okay, Chair, do you want me to speak? Yep, just to say I'm a bit like a record in a groove, I guess, that's stuck, but we're not decision-making partners in the Regional Transport Plan, and we acknowledge that. But I think as a National Park Authority, just to remind you that we do want to be, I suppose, a close consultee in this process, and that at key stages in this. It would be good if at least we have a sort of a knowledge as to what's going on and an opportunity to feed in any comments we might have from our perspective. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Julian. That's noted. Any other questions then before we move to the recommendations, which are, I've lost them. It's just that we note the progress made against the regional transport plan, isn't it? Are we happy to move? Hugh, sorry.
You're very happy to move the recommendations. Just to thank officers for the work that's been undertaken so far. It is a mammoth piece of work, but we are working very closely with TFW and, of course, Welsh Government, and we will be keeping them informed, particularly given the risks that have been identified by members. So happy to move the recommendations, Chair.
Right, thank you, Hugh, and thank you for your leadership on this too. It's appreciated. Can I have a seconder then, please?
Happy to second.
Thanks, Sean. If I take it to a vote then, Monmouthshire?
Agree.
Vale de Morgan?
Agree.
Bridgend?
Agree. Thanks.
RCT?
Yes, agreed.
Newport?
Agree.
Merthyr?
Agree, Chair.
Cardiff?
Agree.
Down Gwent?
Agree, Chair.
Caerphilly?
Agree.
Brecon Beach National Park, do you vote on this one, or is
Well,
this...
I'm happy to abstain, Chair. I think it's the best thing. I'm not quite sure what my position is, but if I abstain, I guess that will probably be okay, unless the monitoring officer feels otherwise about it.
Okay. And Torvine is agreed. So that's carried. Thanks, colleagues. On to the last item now, which is the CJC transition update. Jane, do you want to come in on this first?
Thank you, Chair. So this report updates members on the transition both of City Deal into the Corporate Joint Committee and also our transition plan for the Corporate Joint Committee to become fully functioning. We've all been working towards an effective date of the 1st of April 2024, so the new financial year. And the good news is that we're on target for that. There is an enormous amount of work, however, to be done between now and then to get us over the line. Particularly legal, finance and human resources to make sure that we have affected both the transfer of legal responsibilities for City Deal, money and the people. And also to make sure that we've got that really good governance in place that we need to robustly manage these new and extended functions. So to that end, on the 6th of December 2023, members approved an executive team structure, and there's a recommendation in the report for us to further that. The recommendation seeks approval to establish an appointment subcommittee, and that subcommittee should be comprised of between 3 and 5 of the councillor members of the Corporate Joint Committee, and that one of its first functions be to consider any applications we may have for the 4 new director level posts that we created in that as a consequence of that December decision. So the proposal for recruitment of the executive team is, first of all, it needs to go out to advert, but then that members of this appointment subcommittee consider any applications, shortlist and interview shortlisted applicants with a view to then making the final recommendation for appointments to the next convenient meeting of this full committee. So appointments committee do the legwork, make the recommendation to the Corporate Joint Committee to make the final appointments. So that's the people side of things. In relation to the constitutional review, members, particularly the councillor members, have been working very hard on this between December and now. Members have all been meeting weekly since the 4th of December to develop the Corporate Joint Committee's governance arrangements, its policy framework, There's still a lot to do to get those into final form that we can take to the next committee in March for final approval. But as part of that work, members have been considering the terms of reference and composition of our subcommittees, subcommittees and also advisory boards to the Corporate Joint Committee. Next week, next Monday, it's proposed that we take a break of at least 1 week in those working groups so that we can start actually getting those recommendations into a form that members can see what they're going to look like and how they're going to hang together in practice. But in order that we can continue some movement towards getting those committees stood up, members are asked to approve a recruitment exercise for those committees and advisory boards that require lay member appointments. So again, to allow that to happen, there's a recruitment process set out in the report that members are asked to approve in relation to Governance and Audit Subcommittee. First of all, members are asked to agree the composition of that committee, that it should be 10 non-executive councillor members, so a member from each of the 10 local authorities, and then 5 lay members. Assuming members are content with that, that authority be delegated to the appointment subcommittee to approve the role specifications for the lay members. And then once approved, that authority be delegated to the chief executive to advertise and shortlist for those posts. And there's an officer panel led by one of the Corporate Joint Committee's statutory officers, interview shortlisted candidates and make recommendations for formal appointments to be made at the Corporate Joint Committee's annual meeting in May. And when hopefully we'll also have the councillor members' nominations as well. Regional Growth Board and Investment Board, these also require some external recruitment. So there's a recommendation that we move forward with that so that these are also in a place to be ready to meet as soon as practicable. The recommendation is for existing members of the Regional Economic Growth Partnership and the Investment Panel. Those existing members who still have time left on their terms of office be invited to continue on the equivalent board, including any relevant chairships, and they be invited to continue for a term of 2 years, and that will provide the continuity of our existing very good panel and board partnership members onto the new boards. If members are content with that, then there's a request for there to be a delegation to the chief executive to advertise any vacancies that we have. That shortlisting and interviews be carried out by, again, an officer panel led by one of the statutory officers, and that panel make recommendations for appointments to be approved by the appointments subcommittee. There's set out in the report as a short couple of paragraphs updating view on the regional transport plan and strategic development plan. I don't propose to say anything about that because Colin has already brought 2 reports to you that updated us on at least the key parts of that. In terms of the member briefings, these were the member briefings for all members of the 10 constituent councils. Torvine, as we know, happened before Christmas. Last week there were member briefings in Newport and Caerphilly. Next week there's a member briefing due to take place in Tydfil. And the other 6 constituent councils are planned for February and March. There is an update in the report about CCR Energy Limited, which of course members know is a company that's wholly owned by Cardiff Council as accountable body on behalf of the 10 constituent councils. And members will, of course, know that the purpose of setting up that wholly owned company was to deliver the acquisition and demolition of the power station at Aberthaw. Cardiff Council were the initial shareholder in company shareholder, with the intention to issue shares to the other 9 constituent councils. A shareholder agreement was signed by all 10 constituent councils back in September of last year. However, it was agreed not to enact that shareholder agreement until the demolition contract had been signed and technical advisors have been appointed. The demolition contract and the technical advisors, that was signed off earlier this month. So that is ready to go. However, of course, in the intervening period in December, Regional Cabinet agreed to transfer that shareholding currently held, the sole single share currently held by Cardiff Council, to the Corporate Joint Committee. So in those circumstances, we've been reviewing whether there's a need to enact the shareholder agreement. In essence, it's obsolete. So the proposal is to instead replace it with a governance policy that will be between the company, CCR Energy Limited, and the Corporate Joint Committee. And a recommendation on that will be brought to the March meeting of this committee. And when there'll also be a recommendation to establish a shareholders committee to ensure that we've got appropriate oversight of company governance, not only in CCR Energy, but in all of the company interests that the Corporate Joint Committee has. The report also has 2 other items to note. One is the appointment of a non-executive director to CS Connected Limited. That's the following an award of grant funding made to that company. The second matter to note is that Audit Wales Plan 2023 has been received. It has been circulated to members via email, but it'll be Audit Wales will formally bring that to the next meeting of Regional Cabinet in March. And then finally, what's happening at Regional Cabinet. As members know, Regional Cabinet was paused in December to allow all the transition work to continue for the Corporate Joint Committee. There are some final matters that Regional Cabinet will need to approve, and the proposal is that, assuming that the transition plan goes as we all hope, and we're on track to have an effective transfer on the 1st of April, that the March meeting of Regional Cabinet be its last meeting, and that Regional Cabinet be stood down then and all further functions of Regional Cabinet transferred to the Corporate Joint Committee. There will be some items on the agenda for Regional Cabinet in March, certainly the accounts, the company accounts, and Audit Wales' audit plan, as we've mentioned. The recommendations of the report are at paragraph 47. Before we turn to them, is there anything that I can assist with? Any questions?
Questions? I think we're all happy to move to the recommendation. Sean?
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. It's not I haven't got any questions on the report. Jane, thank you very much for bringing the report forward. What I would like to say, what you mentioned there was the member seminars. Firstly, can I thank Kelly and the team for coming to Caerphilly and presenting. It's unbelievably just how helpful those seminars are. And I think as we go forward with such big projects as Aberthaw, as well as delivering regional transport plan and strategic development plans, I think it's of the utmost importance that we put those into diaries to have regular briefings to keep our members up to date. I realise, Kelly, you've got to go through this 10 times, but it really is ever so helpful, and it does give full support then from the members for the CJC. Thanks.
Oh, if I can just say, Chair, it is a pleasure to go around the different councils. We've got a really good response. And again, I think the Caerphilly session was excellent. We got some great questions, but the things that really make us think as well. So I think it was good from both our perspectives. And I certainly agree with Councillor Morgan that having a schedule of regular briefings that focuses on different themes and topics, I think will stand us all in good stead, Chair. So we're hopeful we can put those in place quite quickly.
That's great. Yeah, our members are only human, aren't they? They fill any void of information they get with skepticism, because that's just how people are. So yeah, the more information we can make sure they get, the better. Okay, the recommendations, as has been mentioned, are paragraph 47. I'm going to have a mover and a seconder for those, please.
Happy to
Move it,
move,
Chair.
Chair.
Oh, that was Steve Thomas moving, and who else could I hear then?
Andrew Morgan, I second it.
Andrew seconding. Great. Monmouthshire.
I think Paul's left.
Oh, we've lost Paul. Right, no worries. Vale Morgan.
Agree.
Thanks, Liz. Bridgend.
Agree, thanks.
Thanks you. RCT.
Yes, agree, Chair.
Thanks, Andrew. Newport.
Agree.
Thanks. Merthyr.
Agree, Chair.
Thanks, Geraint. Cardiff.
Agree.
Thanks you. Brian de Gwent.
Agree.
Steve Caffilli.
Agree.
Thanks, Sean. Brecon Beacons National Park.
Support, yeah.
Thank you. And Torvines agreed. So that's carried, and that brings today's meeting to a close. Thank you, colleagues. And thank you to everyone who's played a part in those reports. I'll see you all soon, hopefully. Take care.
Right.
Thanks all. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. See you soon.